gentlemen, we're about to get started. I'd like to give you a couple of directions before we get started tonight. If you're holding a card like this and answering for here for someone this evening and lighting a candle, we have some instructions for you. If you can, please come down the center aisle. Come up to the front. We have candle lighters on both sides. We have them on this side and as well as on the front, right and left. If you can come down the middle, that is ideal. Come up and you will be given a candle. It is going to be lit, and then you are going to turn around and hand it back to the person for them to put on the table. If you have to come down the sides, that's okay, but the best situation would be is if you can come through the middle. You will then go off to the side and you will be handed a flower and go back to your seats on the side aisles, if you would, please. So, and in addition to that, if you have more than one family member that would like to come up with you, you're more than welcome to do that, but only one person will be lighting the candle. So with that, we're going to get started. So we'll try this again. Howdy. Howdy. It's great to be here with you at Aggie Park in person as we gather for this most unique and important of Aggie traditions. I'm Becky Holmes. I'm the class of 82, and I'm your San Antonio A&M Club 2022 Mustard Chair. Please rise for the posting of the colors by members of the 433rd Airlift Wing and the invocation and singing of our national anthem, led by our board secretary, Mr. Lane Mitchell.
Colors. Halt. Raise and heart.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Heart.
Pray with me, please. Gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we gather here today, along with Aggies throughout the world, to remember our brothers and sisters who have gone home to be with you. We give thanks for the place they've filled in our lives and for their part in the heritage of Texas A&M that unites us at this occasion. We are humbly grateful for our Aggie heritage and the comradeship we enjoy. Strengthen this sense of our God-given love and friendship. May it spread to men and women of all schools, nations, and races, and bring people of the world into a new bond of friendship and peace. For those whose absence is marked by our roll call, we pray that you will fill the place they held in our hearts with your presence. May we have a reverent appreciation for the great examples and sacrifices given by those whom we honor by silver taps. Bless the inspiration of this occasion, that we may be strong in body, keen in mind, friendly in society, and religious at heart. In your most humble name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Please be seated. Well, thank you all for being here this evening. Your presence here tonight demonstrates your commitment to both Texas A&M and your fellow Aggies. As we enjoy this time of Aggie camaraderie, I would like to take a moment to thank those who made this evening possible. To Mr. Reagan Freiling, class of '93 and the San Antonio A&M Club president, as well as fellow board members for your commitment to the San Antonio A&M Club and for your support in pulling this event together this evening. And to Mr. Mark Osborne, class of '08, executive director of Aggie Park, and along with his staff and great volunteers who have worked so hard behind the scenes to make this event possible. Thank you to you all. Tonight, Aggies gather in hundreds of locations around the world. Our gatherings will be as unique as the 555,000 former students of Texas A&M, with each gathering sharing a common spirit and a common theme of remembrance, respect, and renewal. Aggies will share good bowl and swap old Army stories, some of which might even be true. We'll also compare notes on how much the campus has grown and changed over the years. And yet we leave here tonight knowing the Aggie spirit remains the same, and it was not the buildings, but our fellow Aggies and our shared experiences at Texas A&M that made such a difference in our lives. So much has changed at Texas A&M, but we gather here this evening and we were respectful of the storied past of our alma mater, and we're grateful for its remarkable rise from just a few small buildings on a bald prairie to one of the nation's largest and most respected institutions of higher learning. We all acknowledge those decades of growth and positive change, and we celebrate what remains constant about Texas A&M, the friendliness of our students, a commitment to a set of core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service. Our uncommon loyalty for our alma mater and our fellow Aggies, and most of all, the incomparable and unconquerable Aggie spirit. Tonight we will call roll of the Aggies who are no longer among us, and we will answer for each and every one of them. And in answering, we will remain true to each other as Aggies can be, and we will stand in support of those Aggies left behind. We remember and respect those who have departed, and we cherish the proud past of our great school. Earlier today, the Association of Former Students led a roll call at the Clayton W. Williams Alumni Center. Volunteers representing current and former students, Texas A&M faculty, staff, and administration called every name on the roll call list for the worldwide muster and answered here for each and every name. That roll call began at sunrise in Aggieland and included names of about 1,500 Aggies and lasted for about 2.5 hours. We do that roll call every year to ensure every Aggie is remembered at muster as they should be. as they must be. Among the names of those called were two of our most recognized faces here at Aggie Park. Jim Upmore, class of 1953, and one of the biggest Aggies anyone would ever meet. His support was exemplified by not missing more than a handful of football games in more than 50 years, and requiring his family events scheduled for the fall to always be on that bye weekend. I don't think it was any mistake that Jim passed in February when it was not football season. Jim was always front and center at muster, and this year he's just got a little better seat. Or Doe Holloman, one of our founding members of the San Antonio Aggie Women's Club and volunteer extraordinaire. Both will be very missed here at Aggie Park. With the passing of time, some of our traditions, it's killing me. With the passing of time, some of our traditions may be carried out slightly different ways or at different times or venues, but the undying Aggie spirit will remain unchanged and will continue to burn brightly. Tonight we celebrate what is constant and what is true about the Aggie spirit. And more than anything, what is constant is the tradition and the spirit of Aggie muster. Every muster ceremony is different. A muster gathering can be filled with celebration and joy or filled with quiet remembrance and tears. Aggies gather this year in the grandeur of ballrooms, in the comfort of homes, and under the shadow of conflicts. We gather in restaurants and bars, on ships and military bases, and we gather in kitchens and on small back porches. But it matters not where we gather, nor does it matter how many of us are together. We gather in large and small groups, 15,000 at Reed Arena earlier, but in many locations, just 2 or 3 Aggies sharing fellowship and remembrance. We gather as old friends, ones we've known for years and ones we've just met. We represent all ages, all classes, every state of the union, and nearly every country on earth. Whatever road brought us here, whatever our differences, we unite as one people, singing together the spirit of Aggie Land, and remembering the love we have for Texas A&M and the love we have for our fellow Texas Aggies. We are blessed to be Texas Aggies in countless ways. And among the many, many blessings is the comfort of knowing that someday, somewhere, in a stadium or a ballroom, or on just a back porch, someone will mark us present in their hearts and will answer here for us on our journey's end. And that's the Aggie spirit. It has been my profound honor and privilege to speak to you tonight and represent the San Antonio A&M Club as your muster chair. Thank you very much, and Gig 'em Aggies.
Howdy. Age makes you wear these, sorry. Let's try that again. Howdy. Howdy. Good evening. My name is Reagan Freiling, and I'm the class of 93, and I am the 2022 San Antonio A&M Club president. I'm also proud to be the 101st president of your San Antonio A&M Club, and it's an honor to stand before you tonight. Last year on May the 3rd, we closed Aggie Park to start our renovation project. It was closed for 307 days, and over the last 5 years, we've had over 400 donors contribute money, and many others donated time and materials and resources to make this capital campaign possible. We're grateful to every single one of you for your generosity. As the San Antonio A&M Club has done in the past, we reflect back on this recent accomplishment. Tonight, at the direction of our board of directors, we would like to rededicate Aggie Park. To dedicate something means to set it aside for use, for a special purpose. The name Aggie Park described the original land and its functions. It was intended as a memorial park in honor of our war veterans. So many Aggies have come before us and have given the ultimate sacrifice for us to enjoy this park where we gather tonight. On March the 12th, 1946, 3.3 acres were purchased. Later that year, the San Antonio A&M Club was sanctioned by the Association of Former Students as the very first club chartered. Improvements started on the property, July of 1947, and in 1953, construction began on the walls and roof to begin on this facility. The first function that was held in this building was December the 31st, 1953, and it was a New Year's Eve party. Our club historian, David Wolf, is not able to be here tonight, but David was at that function in 1953. Do I have anybody else that's here tonight that was at that New Year's Eve party? Okay, so David's the only one. Okay. On April the 21st, 1954, a few months later, the original building facility was dedicated. And as Aggies always do, if you do something more than once, it's tradition. Thank you. So in 1993, the facility doubled in size, and so we rededicated the park on the 40th anniversary. In 2004, on the 50th anniversary, we rededicated the building. And so tonight we're rededicating this building after this wonderful capital campaign. The very first president of the San Antonio A&M Club was C.C. Polly Kruger, class of 1912. Our club's highest award and honor is named after him. And in the last 101 years, that award has only been bestowed on 20 individuals. And I see several here tonight. And if you have been awarded the Polly Kruger Award, would you please stand and be recognized? Raul Fernandez, Jerry Bowles, Johnny Annis. As we now rededicate Aggie Park, I've asked John Yanis, class of 1953 and one of our oldest Polly Kruger Award recipients, to accept this plaque on behalf of the San Antonio A&M Club. This plaque will proudly be presented and displayed in this park. Thank you, Johnny. Sorry, we had to get a photo op. Okay, the mission statement of the San Antonio A&M Club is to promote fellowship among former students and friends of Texas A&M, and to spread the Aggie spirit across South Texas, and to provide scholarships to Bexar County students attending Texas A&M University. The role of the A&M Club is to serve as the focus of all organized alumni activity in that geographical area. It also provides each former student with the opportunity to become a member of a worthwhile group. Also to add something to that group and to receive something in value from that relationship. It also provides a forum in which former students can assist each other and professionally participate in community affairs and become informed spokespersons on behalf of Texas A&M University. The San Antonio A&M Club is the gold standard of A&M and alumni clubs. This group is active and we're growing. We have a good foundation in place. The leadership on our board of directors is strong. The wisdom of our past presidents is present with us, and those traditions are going to continue. And we'll make those that came before us proud at keeping strong with these traditions. Is anyone here tonight excited about the football season coming up? We ain't done yet. So Jimbo Fisher is coming to San Antonio on May the 20th at the Whitty. I'd like to see all of y'all there, but I don't know if we'll have enough room for all of you, so get your tickets quick. So we've got tickets and tables that are for sale. Also, If you have any auction items that you'd want to help us with, this is our major fundraiser, and we would love for you to help us. This is where we make the majority of our money for our scholarship recipients. Also, on June the 25th, we have our family barbecue right here at Aggie Park. It's a great time. Plan to attend. There's plenty of barbecue and a lot of games for your kids. On September the 9th, we have a sporting clays tournament. Come and enjoy the opportunity to have some fun with your fellow Aggies. Those are some of the events that we have planned. Also, I want to tell you a story, Ags. When we started raising money for this capital campaign, Paul Denham was our president. It was my first year on the board of directors. And Paul told each of the directors, he said, I need each of y'all to do your part. I was nervous because he was telling us to raise money for this capital campaign. How do you ask someone for money, right? It can be a little nerve-wracking. So I called a buddy of my uncle's, Chaz Neely, class of 62, who's a mentor to me. And I said, Chaz, I need some help. I don't know how to ask somebody to donate to this project. How do I approach that? And Chaz said, I'll never forget it, but his words have stuck with me to this day. And he said, Reagan, you're not asking for money for yourself. You're asking for money for Aggie Park, for something that we all love. And that should be easy to do. And so that took a lot of the worry out of asking people for help. And look what y'all have done. Amazing, amazing what we've done here. You see where I'm going with this? I'm not asking y'all for money tonight, I promise. But I am asking for one thing. I'm asking you, are you a member of your local A&M club? Are you a member of your local A&M club? If not, consider joining. In Bexar County, we have over 17,000 A&M alumni, okay? Our membership, due to COVID, has dropped below 1,000, and our goal is to get that thing up to about 2,000 by the end of the year. We have forms in the back that you can fill out. If you're bored with my talking, you can log on to aggiepark.com and sign up. Whatever it takes, I'm challenging you tonight to get involved. I'm so thankful for my uncle. Wayne Freiling, class of 62. He talked me into meeting him here for lunch one Monday, and he encouraged me to get involved and to do something. Last year, I was the muster chair for San Antonio, and it's a lot of work, isn't it, Becky? Well, my wife and I have two boys, 11 Will and 9 Duke, and last year, when I was the chair, my little guy, Duke, said, I'm going to go with you, Dad. I'm going to spend the whole day with you. And so I said, okay, come on. So we went and picked things up. We picked up all the candles, supplies, and he's right there with me. And I'll never forget, we're turning onto the access road. And he says, Dad, how much do you get paid for doing this? And I told him, I said, Duke, I don't get paid one dime. I don't get paid anything. And he couldn't believe it. And I told him, son, life is about service to others. Volunteering with me that day, just like today, were so many other Aggies, and we were all trying to make this muster the best muster possible. Compiling names to be read at muster is moving. Talking with family members and friends who have lost loved ones is gut-wrenching. Volunteering and serving your fellow Aggies, it's priceless and worth every single minute. Thanks and gig 'em.
Howdy. Us short people have problem with microphones, so. I'm Sloan Wendell, class of 98. I'm going to read you the muster tradition. In the beginning, Aggies gathered together on June 26, 1883, to live over again their college days, their victories and defeats, won and lost upon the drill field and the classroom, and eventually, sometimes, the football field. By April 21st, 1903, this annual gathering had evolved into a celebration of Texas's independence at San Jacinto Day. These early meetings included field games and banquets for Aggies to reflect and celebrate their memories of Aggie Land. Let every alumni answer a roll call, wrote the former students. It was not until 1922, however, that the April 21st became the official day of events for all Aggies. Thus, the annual tradition of muster was born. March 23, 1923, the Texas Aggie urged, if there is an A&M man in 100 miles of you, you are expected to get together. Eat a little, live a little over the old days, you spent it at the A&M College of Texas. The Aggie traditions have a way of getting bigger and better. Look at this place. Still remembering and honoring the time spent in Aggie Land, the tradition of muster has grown in strength, meaning, and spirit. By 1929, the meetings had spread worldwide, and in 1942, Aggie muster gained international recognition. 25 men, led by General George Moore, class of 1908, mustered during the Japanese siege of the Philippine islands of Corregidor. Knowing that muster might be soon called for them, these Aggies embodied the commitment, dedication, and friendship that is the essence of the Aggie spirit. They risked their lives to honor the beliefs and values. The small group of Aggies on an outpost during World War II inspired what has developed into one of our greatest traditions. Today, muster is celebrated in more than 100 locations worldwide, with the largest ceremony taking place at Texas A&M campus in College Station. The ceremony brings together more Aggies worldwide in one occasion than any other event.
Thank you for adjusting that for me, Sloan. Got that microphone in just the right place. Our speaker this evening is Amy Bacon, noted author and senior gift planning officer for Texas A&M Foundation. She is known for her books titled Building Leaders, Living Traditions, the Memorial Student Center at Texas A&M University, and Life in Bronze, Lawrence M. Ludkid Sculpture. I need to mention here that our own Bob Kahn has graciously donated 10 copies of each of Amy's books for purchase this evening. We don't have them in stock, but Bob's made this donation in honor of his wife, Jeanette, that we lost last January. And proceeds from this book sales are going to be a donation made to the San Antonio A&M Club in honor of Bob's late wife, Jeanette. So we'll figure out how we can get those to you after Amy overcomes her shipping problems. Good luck with that. They're on a
They're on a boat somewhere.
yeah, they're out in the Sea of Japan or something somewhere. Amy is a 1991 graduate of Texas A&M University, and was extremely active in campus activities as a student, serving as a vice president for the development of the MSC Council. She owns a bachelor's degree in history from Texas A&M and a master's in public history from the University of Houston. Her role as a senior gift planning officer, Amy serves donors who have graciously included Texas A&M in their future plans, as well as assist Aggies who are wanting to learn more about gift planning options. Amy's areas of focus include Bush School, the Corps of Cadets, the Division of Student Affairs, the Health Science Center, and Texas A&M University at Galveston. Amy's career experience includes being a professional fundraiser for the Children's Medical Center in Dallas, the University of Houston in Clear Lake, and fundraising consulting for Rice University. Amy and her husband, Robert, reside in Seabrook, Texas. Robert is also a class of 91, and they have a daughter, Ellie, who is a class of 21. Ellie is currently in Georgetown at law school in Washington, D.C. Amy and her husband, Robert, remain very active and supporting the MSC. And in 2019, Robert and Amy were named Fish Camp namesakes. The university, Amy also serves on the MSC Board of Directors, Texas A&M University Press Advancement, the Aggie Women Network Board, and has been a past member of the College of Liberal Arts Development Council and Friends of the Texas A&M Library Board. Let's welcome Amy Bacon.
Well, howdy. Howdy. So I have to tell you, first of all, when you're a Fish Camp namesake and your last name is Bacon, Camp Bacon is the best fish camp ever. I can only tell you how much money I spent on everything and anything that resembled a slab of bacon to pass out to incoming freshmen, to our counselors, and it was the experience of a lifetime. So thank you, dear, for giving me that last name. It's great to be with you all as we gather for this unique and most meaningful of Aggie traditions. It's truly extraordinary to be in this most special place that San Antonio Aggies have called home, and I will say the original Aggie Park. Your presence here demonstrates your commitment to Texas A&M and especially the Aggies who we honor this day. And as we enjoy this time of Aggie Fellowship, I would like to take a moment just to thank all of those who made this day possible, the officers of this great club, all the helpers, and all the people who are participating in the program. And I think I'm being told to lift up the mic a little bit. There we go. I also want to say that I have to give a special shout out to my dear friend Bob Kahn, my dear friends Raul and Sylvia Fernandez, and Robert Gonzalez, who I have asked for money for many years at Texas A&M. And all of my friends out there in San Antonio, my heart is overfilled with so much joy to be with you tonight. And I do want to do something a little bit fun. I have some books. I wouldn't be a good Texas A&M Press Advancement Board member if I didn't bring a couple of Texas A&M Press books. And so I have this wonderful book called Here. It is the compilation of all the Aggie muster speeches that was written by and compiled by Jerry Cooper. So what I'd like to do is to ask, I would like to give this to the oldest class member here tonight. So I'm going to start with anybody who is from the classes of the 1940s. We've got a 1940 class member? Oh my goodness, yeah? No. 49, 1949. Well, there we go. Oh, congratulations. Okay, and now we're going to do completely the opposite, and we're going to find out who is our most recent graduate, and you get a less popular book. It's my book. It's Building Leaders, Living Traditions, The History of the MSC. There is some good reading in here, I'm going to tell y'all. But do we have anybody from the class of 2021? Oh, we have several. Oh, boy. Okay, let's see. Do we have December 2021? You graduated in December of 2021. August? Are you August? Okay, are you August too? We have two? Okay, I'm going to get y'all another book, okay? So after we have 3. August? Oh, my gosh. Okay. We will figure this out, but we will, this was a great idea that was in my head. Do I get to hold this? You get to hold it. See Becky after this, and we'll work it out, and I'm going to get the other 2 books as well, okay? So there we go. Okay, so that's our little exercise for today. I currently have the most awesome job in the world. I have the privilege of working for Texas A&M Foundation, which is responsible for the academic fundraising and the funds management for student scholarships, faculty professorships, for all of the different programs at Texas A&M and student activities, and it is an absolute joy and privilege to work there. And it's also in my role that I have the honor of serving folks who want to include Texas A&M in their estate plans and leave a gift to Texas A&M for something that they're very passionate about and tell us exactly how they want that to be used. Now, I am not going to ask y'all for money tonight, so that's the first thing I'm going to tell y'all. But I will say, if you are ever interested, you now know how to find me. I'm a member, as Becky said, of the Fightin' Texas class of 1991, and whoop, yeah. And I grew up in Beaumont, Texas. I'm a Golden Triangle girl. My husband, Robert, is class of 91, and our daughter, Ellie, is class of 21, and she is a law student at Georgetown Law School in D.C. And I majored in history and was very active in the Memorial Student Center as a student leader. And I served on the MSC Council, as Becky said, and making friendships and gaining experiences that have really carried me on to where I am today. We learned the other education in the MSC, which was a plan that was envisioned by its first great director, J. Wayne Stark, who was the class of 1939. And he sought to use the MSC as a place where Aggies could learn leadership and skills that were typically not taught in the classroom. He wanted to provide Aggies all the opportunities to be able to compete out in the real world. So he wanted to use the MSC as a way to expose Aggies to culture, to art, social graces, diverse political thought. And for me, I was involved in other organizations. But the MSC, my time there, really shaped me personally, professionally, and as a leader. And it exposed me to the uniqueness not only of the building as a memorial to the Aggies who have died in war, but it revealed to me this unique leadership laboratory that was envisioned and led by Mr. Stark, and then by its next directors, Mr. Jim Reynolds and Luke Altendorf. And the MSC impacted me so profoundly that that's why I wrote the book, Building Leaders, Living Traditions, and chronicled the history of the MSC so that people could really take a look and not only understand the history of the building, but they could understand the history of the programs and the people that were a part of the MSC, which really helped transform Texas A&M into the world-class institution that it is today, and also give us a wonderful book on our beautiful living room of the campus. On Muster Day in 1951, the MSC was formally dedicated with a colorful moving ceremony on the front lawn. And yes, I did say it was on the front lawn. It was on the MSC grass. So that is a story for another day, or you can buy my book and read about it. Tyree Bell, who was the president of the board of directors, graduated in 1913, so he was class of 13, gave the dedication address saying that the building was not a typical cold monument, but rather a vibrant living memorial of usefulness. He talked about the facilities were now going to offer recreational, cultural, social programs to the students there, to the boys there. And it was going to provide an environment where the finer aspects of life can enter and influence the rough and ready atmosphere and habits of a man's school. Perhaps the most significant part of the ceremony, though, was when Mrs. E.P. Arneson, who was from San Antonio, representing A&M Gold Star families, laid a wreath beneath the bronze plaque at the MSC's main entrance that listed over 900 Aggies who gave their lives in World War I and World War II. And that is all under the biblical quotation of John 3, chapter 3, verse 15, which says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." Mrs. Arneson so movingly called everyone to remember those beyond sight and touch who walked here, learned here, laughed here. Our sons are here. And that is exactly what we do today, as Aggies will gather in more than 300 locations around the world, doing exactly as Mrs. Arneson called us to remember. All will answer here for our classmates and our loved ones who have passed on. These gatherings will be as unique as the over 500,000 former students of A&M and as special as the 73,000 current students that are on all of our campuses. Yet each will share that common Aggie spirit of remembrance. Aggies will gather today in groups large and small, all ages and nationalities, and unite in singing the spirit of Aggie Land and remembering the love they each have for Texas A&M. They're going to swap stories, compare notes of how the campus has changed and grown throughout the years, yet they're all going to leave knowing that the spirit, the Aggie spirit, remains the same, and that the shared experiences at Texas A&M made a difference in each of our lives. Whether it be exchanging howdies, or standing as a part of the 12th man, or gathering on a darkened, quiet campus for silver taps. Or whether it's removing one's hat to walk into the MSC, or watching the Corps of Cadets march in on game day. Or maybe it's joining together in silence at 2:42 a.m. every November 18th to remember the 12 Aggies who died in the bonfire collapse. Aggies are uniquely shaped by all of these experiences. Aggies are different. We are different, and it's right that we remain so, holding true to the values and the rich history that encompasses Texas A&M. There is no other university like Texas A&M. Nowhere, anywhere in this country or in this world. It is a place of community, of service, of faith, and connection that binds Aggies for generations. While still filled with that same spirit, A&M today does look vastly different than the smaller university attended by earlier classes. But everyone's journey began at a Texas A&M that has adapted over the years, yet has still been able to retain its uniqueness and its special values. A historic shift took place in the 60s, which led to a groundswell of growth. And I know many at the time were very worried that Texas A&M was going to lose its traditions, its core values, losing that unique quality that made Aggies Aggies. But that didn't happen. A&M's excellence in academics, timeless values, and unique Aggie spirit has never wavered. And I'd argue that it has grown stronger, much stronger, and more impactful throughout the state of Texas, this country, and the world. So I personally, as a female former student, want to thank President Rutter for having the foresight, the enormous courage, and the vision to see A&M's potential to educate students by spreading Aggieness across gender, race, nationality, and equipped even more Aggies to make their mark on this world. Texas A&M is now a leading world-class institution ranking 4th among the nation's largest universities with an enrollment of over 73,000 students. In 2021, Texas A&M completed the Lead by Example campaign, which at the time was the largest university fundraising campaign done in the state of Texas, with a goal of $4 billion. And with the generosity of amazing former students like you and friends of Texas A&M, we achieved $4.25 billion, with a B, to support student scholarships, professorships, and all the initiatives that the university had. Most definitely, both students and faculty want to come to A&M for our standard of excellence when it comes to academics and for research, but I believe they come for something much bigger than that. They come to be a part of something bigger than themselves. A&M has the unique ability to provide that feeling of a small school on a large campus, in large part due to the 1,100 student involvement opportunities that exist, where students have the opportunity to learn, to build networks, lasting friendships, and eventually lead. From the Corps of Cadets to the MSC committees, Fish Camp, and the vast number of service organizations within every college, every niche you could possibly imagine, students light their way at Texas A&M through this involvement, and the bonds we share as Aggies are strengthened even more. And each of these organizations is guided by the core values that Becky mentioned earlier: excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service. Now, I believe, as I bet many of you do, that selfless service is one of the Aggie values that epitomizes and encapsulates all the others. Aggie men and women have always taken the lead, having servants' hearts to aid their families, their friends, complete strangers, and to lay down their lives in sacrifice for this country and for freedom. From the trenches of World War I to the sands of Afghanistan and Iraq, and now guarding the eastern flank of our NATO allies and all the battles in between, Aggies have taken the lead in demonstrating their bravery, their love of fellow man, and selfless service. Yet outside the battlefields and in their communities, you can be darn sure in schools, places of worship, businesses, and everyday life, Aggies typically are the ones to lead, and they are the ones to lead in serving others. Much cynicism does exist in our world today, questioning such attributes as our Aggie values, but this amazing characteristic of Aggies stands the test of time. So when questioned, the answer is a resounding yes. Aggies do lead by serving others, and we're proud of it. And all one has to do is to look at the students that continue to flock to A&M's halls of tradition and graduate from this university. Spend a minute on campus, you'll see students holding banners for upcoming service events, such as Big Event, in which 30,000 students come out to do more than 2,600 service projects in the Bryan College Station area. And they do it in one day, and they wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday to do it. You tell me where there's another university where that happens. You'll see students at Rudder Tower collecting cans of food for the 12th can, a food pantry that was created and run by current students that serves their fellow classmates who can't afford to buy groceries and are just scraping by trying to get an education. This is the epitome of Aggie students, and these are their hearts for service in action, and it connects all of us through the generations. Now, Muster Day is a sacred day when we come together and we strengthen those ties that bind us, and we remember those in our Aggie family who are no longer with us on this earth. But their spirits live on in our hearts and our memories, and each of you may have a family member or a classmate or a dear friend who has passed this year or in years past. And when muster comes up and comes around every year, it does fill our heart with sadness and some grief, but also a deep sense of gratitude that we are all part of a family that never forgets and always honors its members. I have a friend tonight, Tommy Kessler, class of 91, whose name will be called in Tyler. During the pandemic, when Muster 2020 was held virtually and done so beautifully, and we all watched it on TV or on our computers in only a way that students from A&M could have pulled off, my family watched with tears filling our eyes, because earlier that day, my husband and I received a call that in our mind epitomizes muster, and I'd like to share that story with you. A friend of ours, Patrick McCowan, class of 91, had been our friend for over 37 years from Westbrook High School in Beaumont, Texas, and we all went to Texas A&M together, and he was the roommate of my husband, and we'd been friends, our children. Well, he'd been fighting a deadly form of cancer for 3.5 years, and his wife and 3 children, unfortunately, had to spend that March 2020, you all remember what we were doing in March 2020, they had to spend that time in isolation as he fought valiantly from home. The end was near, but he kept fighting. And on the afternoon of April 21st, 2020, his young son called us to say we could come see Patrick. And we tried to get there as quickly as we could. But Patrick grabbed Jesus' hand that Aggie Muster Day before we could get there. And we were truly grief-stricken. But there was a part of us that, knowing Patrick, we knew that this was the way he'd have wanted it. He was smiling down on us. To be an Aggie and have your life end on this earth on Aggie Muster Day, that's the way it should be. He'd joined all the Aggies who'd gone before us, the ones whose legends and shoulders we've all stood on. And there's something very comforting to that thought. And it made us watching that virtual muster so poignant for us, to see all those picture frames and those candles and how they were all spelled out to spell out the word H-E-R-E, here. So this is the tradition that if you ask most current students, they'll proudly say it's their favorite one. And I know it's many of yours as well. But rest assured, our beloved school is in great hands today. Aggie students have an appreciation for the past with a vision for the future. And they recognize that the Aggie spirit binds us all, remains unchanged, and will continue to burn brightly, just like the flames that will flicker on the candles that will be lit tonight in remembrance. So I thank you for sharing that spirit. I thank each of you for embodying that Aggie spirit and living it every day. We are truly blessed to be Texas Aggies in so many ways, but perhaps in no way more symbolic and meaningful than to softly call the muster and have a room full of our Aggie family answer here at our life journey's end. May God bless us all, this amazing country, our courageous military, and our beloved Texas A&M.
Roll call for the absent. In many lands and climes this April day, proud sons of Texas A&M unite. Our loyalty to country, school we pay, and seal our pact with bond of common might. We live again those happy days of yore on campus, field, and classroom, hall at drill. Fond memories bring a sigh, but nothing more. Now we are men, and life is one great thrill. On Fortress Isle 80 years ago today, a group of gallant Aggies, led by Moore, held simple rights which to us all doth say, the spirit shall prevail over cannon roar. They thought of home and all we hold most dear. Where are they now, those boys we knew so well? Ask of the winds, that smile repress a tear. Think only of their glory when they fell. Corregidor, forever a hallowed name, to countless sons of Texans yet unborn. Symbolic like, it stands for deathless fame, a shrine sublime till resurrection morn. Softly call the muster, let comrade answer here. Their spirit hovers around us, as if to bring us cheer. Mark them present in our hearts. We'll meet some other day. There is no death, but life eternal for heroes such as they.
Thank you. Let us start the roll call.
Mike Aspinall, class 1986. Billy Joe Barfield, class of 61. Ken Browning, class of 1986. Here. Fred Burns, class of 1953. Here. Ronald Lewis Tachiri. class of 1970. Leo Dudley Cloud, class of 1959. Howard Connor, class of 1965. Paul Cronenberger, class of 1964. Sam Cunningham, class of 1958. David Davenport, class of 1988. Ronald Davis, class of 1996. Jason Enderling, class of 2003. Christopher Farias, class of 1962. Roy Freeman, class of 1946. Alan Futrell, class of 1974. Matthew Gabori, class of 2013. Miguel Garcia, class of 1961. Narciso Garza, class of 1981. Stephanie Gattaca, class of 2014. Colonel Michael Gokin, class of 1970. Paul Coates, class of 1964. Richard Gregg, class of 1955. Catherine Greenwade, class of 1988. Timothy Griesenbeck, class of 1950. Alvin Groves, class of 1955. Arthur Gurwitz, class of 1947. Ray Harris, class of 1995. Wally Hartley, class of 1989. Shelley Hale Hirschneck, class of 1994. John P. High, class of 1988. Charles Chuck Hinton Jr., class of 1976. Doe Holloman. Leo Hudson, class of 1983. John Hewson, class of 1951.
Miss Tia Jones, class of 2017. Mr. Gary Kirk, class of 1964. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Coulterman, class of 1958. Dr. Lawrence Lane, class of 1986. Mrs. Pam Lesner, class of 83. Mr. Dion Lendor, class of 2015. Mr. Jared M. Lewis, class of 2020. Mrs. Diane McDiarmid, class of 74. Mr. Michael Mann, class of 67. Dr. Carolyn Marshall, class of 1994. Colonel Ricardo Martinez, class of 1990. Mr. Albert McNeil, class of 1949. Mr. Alexander Merrick Acri, class of 59. Mr. John Neal, class of 61. Mr. Bob Nordhaus, class of 68. Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Nunley, class of 73. Major General Wayman Nutt, class of 51. Mr. Larry Lynn Oakes, class of 69. Colonel Edwin Olsmith, class of 56. Mr. Henry Ortega, class of 62. Mr. James Parker, class of 47. Mr. Dennis Parrish, class of 68. Dr. Arlene Patterson, class of 93. Mr. Dan Penaloza, class of 64. Lieutenant Colonel Roberto Perez, class of 59. Lieutenant Colonel Richard Poling, class of 69.
Mr. Lawrence Raba, class of 1963. Mr. William L. Raba, class of 1986. Mr. Michael Rendon, class of 2009. Mrs. Michelle Reynolds, class of 1995. Mr. Robert Rigney, class of 1953. Mr. Mark Sanders, class of 1982. Mr. Jason Cerna, class of 2003. Mr. Gus David Shaw, class of 1954. Dr. Eric Shepard, class of 1978. Mr. Anthony Specia, class of 1955. Mr. Harry Steele, class of 1953. Mr. Gerald Stormer, class of 1974. Mr. James Bill Stroud, class of 1975. Mr. Don Tedder, class of 1956. Mr. John Tingler, class of 1980. Mrs. Robin Ray Tipton, class of 1988. Mr. Jim Upmore, class of 1953. Mr. Nicholas Michael Wallace, class of 1970. Mr. Northwest, class of 1963. Mr. Thomas Wetstein, class of 1974. Mr. Michael E. Wilkes, class of 1983. Mr. Blake Williams, class of 1950. Mrs. Janina Womble, class of 1987. Reverend James Murguia, class of 1992. Mr. Samuel McKinney, class of 1959. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Richard Pinson, class of 1953. Mr. John D. Calzer, Sr., class of 1954. Mr. Mark Gray, class of 1976. Mr. Roger Correa, class of 1986. Lieutenant Colonel Kennard Vandergrift. Mr. Dale West, class of 1957. Mr. Ted Etchison, class of 1981. Mr. William Mayer, class of 1946. Mr. Alfred Fred Pronger, class of 1974. Mr. Larry Waldrop, class of 1960. Mrs. Linda Albritton, class of 1978. Mr. Patrick Warren, class of 1976. Mr. James Ivy, class of 1976. Mr. Robert Miller, class of 1976. Mr. Brian Murphy, class of 1987. If there are any names that need to be called, please stand and call their names so that we can answer here.
Mr. Jimmy Bell, class of 83.
Warren Sumner, class of 85.
Mr. Jared White, class of 84. Mr. Brad Anderson, class of 1981. Mr. Brett Smith, class of 05.
The last Corps trip. It was Judgment Day in Aggie land, and tenseness filled the air. All knew there was a trip at hand, yet not a soul knew where. Assembled on the drill field was the world-renowned 12th man, the entire Fightin' Aggie team, and the famous Aggie Band. And out in front, with royal guard, the reviewing party stood. St. Peter and his angel staff were choosing bad from good. First, he surveyed the Aggie team, and in terms of an angel swore, "By Jove, I do believe I've seen this gallant group before. I've seen 'em play since way back when. They've always had the grit. I've seen 'em lose, and I've seen 'em win, but I've never seen 'em quit. No need for us to tarry here deciding upon their fates. 'Tis plain as the halo on my head that they've opened heaven's gates." And when the 12th man heard this, they let out a mighty yell that echoed clear to heaven and shook the gates of hell. And who is this upon the side? St. Peter asked his aide, that swelled as if to burst with pride when we our judgment made. Why, sir, that's the Cadet Corps. That's known both far and wide for backing up their Aggie team, whether they won, lost, or tied. Well then, said St. Peter, it's very plain to see that within the realms of heaven they should spend eternity. And have the Aggie band at once commence to play, for their fates too we must decide upon this crucial day. And the drum major, so hearing, slowly raised his hand and said, boys, let's play the spirit for the last time in Aggie land. And the band poured forth the anthem in notes both bright and clear, and 10,000 Aggie voices sang the song they hold so dear. And when the band had finished, St. Peter wiped his eyes and said, it's not so hard to see. They're meant for paradise. And the colonel of the Cadet Corps said, as he stiffly took his stand, it's just another corps trip, boys. We'll march in behind the band.